Tampa, Florida. Day at sea on Norwegian cruise line Star. Sunrise.
Is more of a situation. A gentleman goes to the photo gallery, extremely upset, bypasses the line and starts banging his fist on the table. And the photo manager comes out and says, "Sir, if you'd be so kind to wait your turn, I'll be happy to assist you." He says, "I don't want to wait my turn. I just want you to tell me, how do I know which pictures are mine?" It's the one that looks like you, standing next to your wife. Well, hopefully. Here we go. Question number 8 is actually a very valid question. A lot of you ask this, and it is a good question to ask. Do the crew eat the same food that we do? And the answer to that is yes, we do. So if you could leave just a little more on your plate every once in a while. We're getting kind of peckish. A little steak wouldn't kill you. Question number 7 is a very sweet question, and for those of you who have met our captain this week, you know it's his favorite question to be asked and to repeat. Will these elevators take me to the front of the ship? Welcome on board the Norwegian Star. This is not the SS Enterprise. They're just doing the up and the down still with the elevators. Question number 6, a very, very sweet question we don't get asked often. It did happen the one time. And it was a little lady called up to the spa and wanted to know how small her face had to be to qualify for the mini facial. I love that most of the ladies are laughing. All the guys are like, oh, only 11 inches? Oh, yeah. Question number 5 is a classic. It's never, ever, ever going to go away. What do you do with the ice carvings after they have melted? We turn them into little blue drinks and sell them back to you for $4.95. We don't do that, we don't. Well, not often anyway. Question number 4 is actually a situation more than a question. A gentleman calls down to the guest service line, extremely upset because the microwave in his cabin is not working. Turns out he was misusing his safe. Yeah. Pretty sure that was spring break and we were in Cabo. Question number 3, again, is another situation, and this was when I was working for a different cruise line, and we didn't have those fancy dials that say, you know, make up my stateroom. It was still all, you know, the do not disturb signs and all the, you know, the room service and all that kind of thing on the door. And there was a lady on the very first evening of her cruise. She called the 911 emergency line. Help, I'm trapped inside my cabin. Ma'am, how could you possibly be trapped inside your cabin? She says, well, simple. There are 2 doors. One leads to the bathroom, and the other one has a do not disturb sign on it. You know what I would have said? I would have said, leave her in there. We don't need her walking around with all the rest of us. No, 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 no. This actually is not on my list, but before I go to the next one, that one reminds me of one where a gentleman on the very first day of his cruise checks into his stateroom, immediately calls down to guest service, is very upset because he specifically paid for an ocean view stateroom, and all he can see is the parking lot. In waves. It took a second for some of you to get that one. Oh, that's fun. Question number, I couldn't make this up if I tried. Question number 2, I witnessed this myself. It's why it's number 2 on my list because, and bless, the gentleman was there for something entirely different, but he ended up asking the question and we all had a really good laugh about it. I was at guest services returning a lost item, and we were docking the next day in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and there's a gentleman at guest services that asked the agent if the next morning he could get off the ship early so he could watch it dock. I'm thinking, if you can do that, all the power to you. Take me with you. I have a couple of really special nominees before we get to number 1, and we are going to get to question number 1 because it's a question after 8 years that I get asked almost on a weekly basis. It is a morbid curiosity. You all want to know about it, so I'm going to settle it once and for all this afternoon. But a few honorable mentions. It's really funny actually because there was a gentleman at the guest services desk, and he went there because he wanted to get the seasickness patches for behind his ears. Which is another question we get, by the way, is what religion are the people with the patches behind their ears? We've got that one. They are the religion of not vomiting is who they are. And, has anybody felt seasick at all this cruise? Anybody a little bit? Do you know what? After 8 years, I still get seasick. Ginger ale's really good. Green apples are really good if you're feeling it. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the best thing you can possibly eat. It won't help you at all, but it's the only thing that tastes just as good coming up as it does going down. So check it out, try it. It's good for you. Anyway, back to my story. So he wanted the patches, but we said, well, sir, we actually don't have the patches. We have the packets, the magazine, the tablets. And he said, oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. And he goes to leave, and he comes back and says, sorry to bother you again, but do you have any tape? It doesn't work as well. And another question, I witnessed this personally. It was so sweet, again, working for a different cruise line, but we were on the deck just overlooking the pool, and there's these 2 little ladies watching the pool down below. And as I walked by, one of the ladies said, excuse me, Jamie, but I just want to know, is that seawater down there in the pool? And I said, well, yes, it is. And she said, okay, thank you. And I left, and then I hear her turn to her friend and say, see, that's why it's so rough in there. That'd be great if that were the case. Fishy something in there. All right, and your number 1 question, the question you are so curious about, let's settle it once and for all. Is it fresh water or seawater inside the toilets? You asked the question, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a single crew member on board the Star who knows the answer to that, and there are 2 reasons. Number 1 and number 2. So stop asking the question. Give yourselves a round of applause for the laughter. You've been good sports. You're really good sports. Now, before we bring the crew out, and I promise they are going to be coming out in just a minute, if we can get serious for just a moment on your last day, the question that we get asked more than any other question is why? Why do we do what we do? Why do we leave our families for 4, 6, 8, 10 months out of the year to come here? For so many of us on board, myself included, it's to make a difference in your vacation. You've worked hard for it, you've earned it, and we want to be here to make you smile. That's my reason for getting out of bed in the morning. And sometimes we wonder if the smiles are working. Well, this week, we know that they have because the cameras were watching. Ladies and gentlemen, eyes up to the screen. This is your cruise in review.